Hello, my anatomists. Welcome to part 2 of lesson 1, which is all about our organ systems. Remember that last class we added all of the structures or organs for all of the different systems that we have. And we also talked about the difference between anatomy and physiology. We said that anatomy was knowing the major structures or the names of the organs, but physiology was learning all about the functions of them. So last class we really focused on anatomy. Today, we're going to focus on the physiology of our different systems. Remember that we're still working on the essential question of how do my organ systems work together to ensure my survival? And we're going to really deep dive into this question at the end of the lesson today. So before we get started on our notes, excuse me, we're going to do a little bit of a thumb review. So I'm going to read through a couple of slides, and obviously you don't need to hold up your thumbs because I'm not here at school, but think about what your answers would be if we had these slides up in front of the class. Okay, so let's look at our first slide. Which term refers to the study of the structure of the body? So if you were paying attention, I just told you the answer to this question. Is it health, physiology, or anatomy? And if you were thinking anatomy, you would be correct. That should be a thumbs down. Remember that anatomy is the structure, physiology is the function. Which system does the ear belong to? Is it the endocrine system, the nervous system, or your integumentary system? If you said the nervous system, you would be correct because, right, this is one of your sense organs. If you said the integumentary system, you would also be correct because you have your sense receptors there as well. So it could fit into both. It definitely does not fit into your endocrine system. Which organ does not belong in the same system as the other two? Is it your testes, your thyroid gland, or your salivary gland? If you said that the salivary gland should get booted, you would be correct. Remember that your testes produce hormones for our body, so they fall within the endocrine system. And so does the thyroid gland, which produces specific hormones in relation to metabolism. What would be the best definition of the medical term endocarditis? Is it the inflammation of the inside of the heart? Is it pain within the heart, or is it cutting into the heart for surgery? So if you said inflammation of the inside of the heart, you would be correct. Remember that endo means inside, card means heart, and itis means inflammation. So it is the inflammation of the inside of your heart. Now we're going to look at this image and you're going to identify which organ system this is. So is it your cardiovascular system, your nervous system, or your lymphatic system? So if you chose the lymphatic system, you would be correct. There's a big hint right here where it says lymph nodes. So your lymph nodes and your spleen are center parts of your lymphatic system. Now, at this point, I would love for you to pause this video and then look through your textbook and look through your how much do you know about your body activity that we did at the very beginning of our unit, to try to figure out if you can find all of the different functions for all of our different systems. So to do this, pages 85 through 92 will be really helpful for you in your textbook. Once again, that's 85 through 92. And then once again, your how much do you know about your body activity from the first day of the unit will also be very helpful. When you are done filling out your notes, you can come back to this video and hit the play button, and we are going to go over all of our answers together. Good luck! So at this point, you should have completed all of the different functions for your different systems. So we are going to work right on through them. We're going to start with our very first system, which is our integumentary system. You should have found that it acts as a sense organ. It also regulates our body temperature, and it protects underlying tissues from foreign agents. Remember that it acts as our sense organ because skin covers our entire body, and we have nerve receptors on the end of every square inch of our skin. So it's super helpful to feel if somebody's brushing up against you, for example. That is a sensation of touch, which happens with your skin. It also regulates body temperature. We've talked about this multiple times. We're going to deep dive into this concept in our next lesson when we talk about homeostasis. And then, of course, your skin is physically a barrier between you and all of the different diseases that are out there. So, additional information, we know that the integumentary system regulates body temperature by sweating, which cools the body. And I think that is a concept that a lot of you are aware of because of PE classes, or if you're a student athlete, you know that once your body temperature starts to rise, you will start sweating. You don't even really need to be either of those. You just need to go outside in a Maryland summer and see your body at work trying to cool itself down. Excuse me, my allergies are very bad this weekend. So, looking at our next system, which is our skeletal system, we're going to see that our skeletal system protects our internal organs. That is why you have a rib cage. It is there to protect all of your very vital organs like your heart and your lungs. It's a supporting framework. If we didn't have bones, we couldn't have muscles to attach to these bones. We physically wouldn't be standing upright. It's also there for movement. Remember that our muscles need to contract in order for us to move, but remember our muscles are attached to our bones. So without our bones, we really wouldn't be moving anywhere. We store minerals there. That is why you have vitamin D fortified milk, and also calcium is very important. Both of those are very important minerals that we store in our bones. And in a couple of units, we'll see what happens when we don't have enough minerals in our bones. It's also present for our blood cell formation. Remember that your bone marrow is where your blood cells form. And once again, when we focus in on the skeletal system, we see physically how blood cells are created and what kind of blood cells we have. So, a little bit of additional information. We know that cartilage is connective tissue that cushions the bone at the joints, and it may connect bones to each other. So really, cartilage is just kind of like the shock absorbers on cars, so that when you're running or moving, your bones don't run right up against each other at the joints. Our ligaments are connective tissue bands that hold bones together at joints. Okay, and so that is something that gets often torn when we are athletes who get hurt. Our next system is our muscular system. So, the purpose of the muscular system, we already talked about movement, how the muscular system is physically attached to our bones to enable the bones to move. It's also there to maintain posture. If you ever had pain in your upper back underneath your shoulder blades, that is most likely because of a posture issue. If you're hunched over your computer, that often will trigger pain underneath your shoulder blades. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's just your muscles working overtime to hold this kind of negative posture. And it also produces heat. Remember that when we shiver, our muscle cells are rubbing up against each other, and that's producing heat. Additional information, we have tendons that are connective tissue bands that hold muscles to bone. So if you've ever had like a really stringy, rubbery, almost like string inside of your chicken, like wings, for example, that is a tendon, and that's holding the two parts of like the drumstick to the wing together. Nervous system. It has several functions. The first function is that it communicates and controls the body's functions. And it also recognizes sensory stimulus. So when we get pinched on our hand, your nervous system, your brain, your nerves, your spinal cord, all are working to communicate that message to the brain so that the brain can respond. Remember that our nervous system communicates and controls through nerve impulses, and our nerve impulses are very fast, but they have very short term effects. So our nerves will say, like, ow, move your hand, and then you'll move your hand off of a hot stove, for example. And so that's a very quick response, both in terms of your sense receptors receiving the message of being burnt, as well as your nerve impulses communicating that message and getting a response from your brain pretty instantaneously to move your hand off of that hot stove. Our next system is, we could argue it's kind of like the opposite of our nervous system. So we'll see why. So it has similarities. One of the major similarities is that it communicates and controls the body's functions. So that's the exact same function that the nervous system has. But it does this in a different way. What the endocrine system does is that it secretes hormones into the bloodstream. And those hormones then regulate growth, metabolism, and reproduction. Remember, we talked about your metabolism being controlled by your thyroid gland, your growth being reproduced by your pituitary gland, and your reproduction being kind of driven by your testes and your ovaries. So once again, this is similar to the nervous system because it communicates and controls, but then it's the opposite. There's a huge difference because it controls through hormones in the blood and not nerve impulses. And the difference between those two is that nerve impulses, remember, are fast and short term, whereas hormones are slow and have very long term effects. So that's how they are similar and that's how they're different. Very important to keep that in mind. Our next system is our cardiovascular system, and the purpose that it serves is for general transportation. It also regulates our body temperature and it provides immunity. So it regulates our body temperature in the sense that our body can kind of control where it sends its blood. A lot of people will get cold after they eat a meal because all of their blood is rushing to their abdomen to handle the process of digestion. And so it leaves the arms and the legs, the extremities, exposed to colder temperatures. It also helps with immunity because it transports all of our white blood cells, which fight against diseases. It will transport those around the body. Some additional information is that it regulates your body temperature by distributing heat throughout the body. Next, we've got our lymphatic and immune system. So once again, we've got transportation and immunity for our lymphatic system. Remember in the thumb review, we saw the outline for what the lymphatic system looks like, and it looks like a series of almost roads throughout the entire body. So that's where the transportation comes from. And then your immune system is your lymph nodes and your spleen will provide a lot of immunity. Then our respiratory system, its purpose is to exchange carbon dioxide and oxygen. That's not anything new. You guys have known this since you were itty bitty humans. And it's also present to filter irritants from the inhaled air. I'm noticing that there's a typo on my slide. It shouldn't say filtration or filtration of. So that should be an F. Sorry about that. Filtration of irritants from inhaled air. Remember, we talked about like that's how our boogers are formed because our nose hairs will capture all of that dirt and grime and will kind of stick it into that goop, which we know as boogers. We're nearly there. We've got 3 more. We've got our digestive system, and then urinary, and then reproductive. So we're nearly there. Our digestive system works as a mechanical and chemical breakdown of food. Remember that mechanical is the action of chewing, and then chemical breakdown would be saliva breaking down that food in your mouth. It's also present for nutrient absorption. We can also say, obviously, that the chemical breakdown of food occurs in our stomach with our stomach acid, but it really does start in your mouth where there's saliva. And then we know that our intestines are there for nutrient absorption. That's why there's such a long our intestines are so long is because we want to increase the surface area during which nutrients can be absorbed. Some additional information on our digestive system. The mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, intestines, and anus form the tube within the body that food moves through. We call this tube the gastrointestinal tract or your digestive tract. All of the other organs are accessory organs that help digestion. And if you think about it, your mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, intestines, and anus form a perfectly clear tube straight from your mouth to your anus, right? So all of your food that goes into your mouth never actually touches the inside of your body other than the lining of your gastrointestinal tract, right? Because it's basically like a tunnel through our bodies. So that's a little bit of a mind bend for you to think about. Our next one is our urinary system. Before last one. The purpose of the urinary system is to filter the blood of waste products, and it's to maintain water, electrolyte, and acid-base balance. So, for example, that's why drinking your own urine is not going to be great for you because it's mostly waste that's in there. There's very little water that gets added to it unless you're super hydrated, in which case you're just kind of excreting water because your body has too much of it. If you've ever also taken very, very high quantities of certain vitamins, you'll see that your body will capture what it needs, and then the rest of it will be expulsed through your urine. And your urine can actually turn some pretty crazy colors if you are ingesting too many vitamins. You guys all know that your urine does give you quite a bit of information, including how dehydrated you are. So you shouldn't be having completely clear urine, but you also should absolutely not be having very dark colored urine. So if your urine is dark, you should really be drinking more fluids, and especially some fluids with electrolytes. That'll help you regain some hydration in your body. Our final one is our reproductive system. So our reproductive system has three functions. It produces the sex cells, which we call gametes, flashback to freshman year bio. It also transfers and fertilizes gametes. And its purpose is for our species to survive. It's the survival of the genes. It's not the survival of the specific organism. Remember, we talked about the fact that our reproductive system is not necessary for life. And so really it's just necessary to make sure that the species keeps on propagating. So some additional information. Our gonads, that's the name for our organs that make up our gametes. We have two sets of gametes, right? We've got gametes for the male and for the female. For the female, it's your ovaries. For your male, it's your testes. The female specific gamete is called the ovum, which is your egg. That's a singular ovum. If you have more than one, it is your ova. And the male gamete is your sperm. Okay, so important for you to keep that in mind. So your gonads for your females are your ovaries. Your gonads for your males are your testes. The gametes for your female are your ovum, your ova. The male gamete is your sperm. Awesome. So here is your vocabulary for the lesson. You can pause this slide right here to fill out your vocabulary. We only have a handful of words. We have anatomy, which is the study of the structures of the body. We have a hormone, which is a chemical produced by the body to stimulate specific cells into action. We have metabolism, which is the chemical processes that maintain life. And we have physiology, which is the study of the functions of the body. So once you have these vocabulary words down, you're going to have two activities to complete. The first one, on a sheet of loose leaf paper, and if you do not have loose leaf paper, either ask one of your classmates or the substitute teacher should have some lined or graph paper for you. Please answer one of these two questions, and I want you to answer them in 2 sentences, which is actually harder than it seems. So I want you to be very mindful of the word choice that you use because you only get 2 sentences. I will not read past 2 sentences. So that's your challenge, okay? I want you to answer one of these 2 essential questions. The first one is, how do 2 organ systems work together to perform an essential function? And or how does one system depend on another to function? So either how do they work together to do something, or how does one system completely depend on another in order for it to function? Okay, so you're going to answer that question on a sheet of loose leaf. Once you're done with that, you're going to turn it into your substitute teacher. They know to collect it by the end of the class. And then you can get started on your question set lesson 1, your organ systems part 2. When you are finished, please place it on the podium. If you do not complete it during class, it is due for homework on Wednesday, October 5th, where I will be back in class to collect that for you. If you submit it today during class, I will try to get it graded for you by October 5th. Also, please remember that you should be studying for your first quiz for the unit. That's going to be this Friday, October 7th. Our quiz is going to be on lesson 1 and our medical terminology. And I will give you more details about the quiz next class. That's it for me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye.